What's up, it's Cinema Shogun here, and Ezra Miller is at it again. Now, another 12-year-old child and their family has stepped forward with allegations against Ezra Miller. And as of this morning, an order of protection against Ezra Miller has been granted to the 12-year-old and their family. For those of you all who might not know, a family of a young girl stepped forward about a week or so ago with allegations against Ezra Miller, saying that Ezra Miller groomed their child from the age of 12 all the way until 18. And currently, at the time of this recording, Ezra Miller and this 18-year-old girl are on the run from authorities. So they're both missing. We have no idea where they're at. The family and law enforcement are trying to locate Ezra Miller and this missing child, who is now 18, but was allegedly groomed by Ezra Miller since the age of 12. Well, now, turns out another 12-year-old and their family is stepping forward. Now, they say that this is a 12-year-old non-binary child. So I don't know if this is a male child or if this is a female child. Okay, they won't even specify that. So all we know is that they are non-binary. The thing is, Ezra Miller seems to have a preference. He likes 12-year-olds, and he likes the non-binary type. He goes after these kids on purpose. He's preying on these kids on purpose because he knows that they're dealing with some things mentally. Often, parents don't see eye to eye with this new way of life, and he's taking advantage of that, or attempting to take advantage of that. And I just think that it is absolutely disgusting how the mainstream media has covered this story, how these movie studios are going forward, still working with him, and how even some independent journalists out there, they're tiptoeing around the story. You know, I like a lot of people's content. I watch a lot of people's content. I've noticed there's a lot of people trying to tiptoe around the story because they're trying not to offend anyone. They want their videos and their content to appeal to as many people as possible. Well, over here on this channel, we're going to keep it real and we're going to keep it honest. Ezra Miller has used his gender identity, his sexuality, as a shield from criticism. And the only reason that he's allowed to go on this rampage is, for one, of course, he's got money. That's all. That always plays a factor. And for two, everyone is afraid to do anything about it because of how he identifies. And if you say anything about it, you're automatically labeled a bad person. People have been labeling me a bad person for covering this story for the last few days. Do you think I care? Personally, I do not. I'm not here to protect anyone's feelings. I'm here to get these news stories across to my audience. I'm not here to protect anyone's feelings. I'm not going to tiptoe around any story. So yeah, I do find it odd that just coincidentally, most of these people that are having these issues with Ezra Miller, they're either women or they're non-binary little girls. I would assume this is probably a little girl. And he's preying on them because they're confused. And he's using his own labels to make the families feel more comfortable and to shield himself from criticism. But let's just go ahead and listen to what happened here, because this is horrible. Now, no mainstream media outlet has actually reported the actual facts of what's going down with his other allegations. Like I said, I put out an hour-long video. The biggest video I ever put out on my channel. It's the video that I uploaded right before I uploaded this one. Go check it out. There is so much about this story that you don't know because no one's reporting on it. It gets really bad, but this is horrible as well. Where do we start? On Wednesday, a mother of her 12-year-old child, notice it's so frustrating reading these articles because they're worded in a way that just throws your brain off. The way that I've grown accustomed to reading articles on YouTube is I'm always kind of like a couple of words ahead of what I'm actually saying out of my mouth, because I have to be careful not to say certain words that YouTube doesn't like, especially with cases like this. So I have to cherry pick out certain words. So when I'm reading these articles, they're always like extremely odd, and it throws me off because they won't acknowledge the gender of the person, or they'll call someone like a zim or a zer or a they, and it's just like, it throws you off when you're reading. But, whatever. On Wednesday, a mother and her 12-year-old child traveled to their local courthouse in Greenfield, Massachusetts, and were granted a temporary harassment prevention order against Ezra Miller after alleging that the actor menaced their family one evening in their downstairs neighbor's home and acted inappropriately towards the non-binary youngster. Whoa. So, of course, this is, I like how they worded it that he menaced them. Because this guy is a total menace to society. Like, it's so bad. And he's like a supervillain. He's like a non-binary supervillain out here. Someone needs to create a comic book about this dude. Maybe I will. You know what? Some years down the line, I'm going to release a comic book. I hope all of you back it. And my villain will be Ezra Miller. Mark my words. Just wait on it. On the evening of February 2nd, the trio contend. Now, this is the little non-binary child, the mother, and I believe the grandmother, and the neighbor. The trio contend that Miller was present at the downstairs neighbor's home in Greenfield, which is located about 40 miles away from the actor's ranch in Stamford, Vermont. That neighbor is in a band with Whitney Suiters, a musician who is close with Ezra Miller. Miller was wearing a bulletproof vest, and I had no idea until later that they were armed, recalls the visiting neighbor. Now, if you watched my past video, this will not come as a surprise to you. Not only is Ezra Miller armed, he's armed to the teeth, and he is preparing his cult for a war against the KKK. Not even joking. Not even kidding in the slightest bit. He has a small army of little non-binary kids. I'm not joking, guys. Ezra Miller is forming a small little army of non-binary kids, and he has convinced them that they are about to go to war against a lot of different hate groups across America. Not even joking. Dude has transferred a lot of weaponry state to state to make it down to North Carolina in order to wage war with the Klan. You know what? That just shows you how far out there this guy is. Now, I don't believe necessarily that Ezra Miller believes himself that he's really going to wage war against these people, but he's using this to like freak out the little non-binary kids that are under his control, and they're all like spaced out on acid, thinking that they're about to go to war in any moment. It's really bad, y'all. I suggest you watch my last video. Now, tensions began brewing when the mother says she mentioned doing some traveling recently with her tribe of people, leading Miller to snap at her and accuse her of cultural appropriation. Then a conversation about board games allegedly went sideways after Miller claimed that the board game Parcheesi had, I don't know this board game, I can't even pronounce it. Parcheesi had Rastafarian roots. The visiting neighbor, who was half black, questioned Miller as in which sect of Rastafari movement it originated from. At this point, Ezra explodes and started screaming directly into my face. They said, "You don't even know what the F you are talking about. What did you say to me? What did you just say to me?" I was very caught off guard, the visiting neighbor continues. Then they slowly opened up their jacket, and they had this big Sherpa jacket. So picture Ezra Miller, small, frail, pale, fairy-esque looking dude. And I'm not saying that as like a derogatory term. I'm saying that because he often glitters himself up and makes himself kind of look like a supernatural being. So you got this weird dude in your face, slowly opening up this big Puff Daddy jacket. And inside his jacket, on the side of his jacket, you could see a gun. While showing this old woman the gun, he says, "Talking like that could get you into a really serious situation." So he just threatened this woman's life in her own home or in her own neighbor's house. And according to WB, it's okay. He could still play the Flash. So Ezra Miller's sitting at this table. Why he's even there, I don't know. I guess he's friends with someone who's in this band, what have you. And because of a board game, he opens up his jacket and shows the woman that he has a gun and lets her know, hey, basically, don't talk to me like that or you might get killed. For lack of better words. I mean, his direct quote is, let's read his direct quote once again. "Talking like that could get you into a really serious situation." At that point, I will backhanded Ezra Miller right off that table. But seriously, man, this dude, this is the sense I'm getting here. Now, of course, everyone else will be afraid to touch on this, but let's just be honest here. Ezra Miller seems like a really insecure dude. He absolutely hates women. He kind of wants to be a woman, kind of confused. I don't know what's going on there. But he hates women. And he feels like a little man. Make no mistake about it. Ezra Miller feels like a little man. And I say that because never in any of these situations do you hear about Ezra Miller having an altercation with another man. No, he is exclusively attacking and threatening women. Exclusively. But when you talk about it, when you talk about the problem at hand, you want to know what people want to talk about? They want to talk about, oh, well, you misgendered him. You called him a him instead of a they or a them. So this whole conversation around Ezra Miller for the past few months, it's been frozen on whether people are using his right pronouns. A lot of people don't give a damn that Ezra Miller is out here preying on little kids, taking advantage of little kids even within the pronoun community. They don't care about that. They only care that you get the pronouns right. You got to call them a them. You got to call them a they. I don't give a damn what he identifies as. He's a grown-ass man with a mental illness that is traveling around the world, attacking women. He has done it countless times. And here yet a freaking again, we have another situation in which a woman's life was threatened by this man. And he's allowed to get away with it. Why? Because he identifies as this or he identifies as that? Well, I'll let you all know. Spoiler alert. Sorry to burst anyone's bubble here. Ezra Miller isn't what you think he is. In fact, Ezra Miller likes little girls. Okay? If the allegations are true, I suggest that you go watch my last video. If what these people are saying is true, Ezra likes little girls, which shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone because he's jet-setting around the world with a bunch of 12-year-old non-binary girls in tow. But he's allowed to do so. Why? Because he's non-binary, trans, and the little girls, the little kids, whoever they want to identify as, the children that he's manipulating and taking control over, they all identify this way as well. So even when parents try to say something, they're being called hateful bigots. I want you all to understand that there is a child missing, not this child. There is another child missing right now. And when her parents came forward with the allegations, trying to get help to find their kid, they were labeled bad, bigots, hateful, evil people, all because they're trying to locate their daughter. So that's where we're at in this situation. I'm not going to bite my tongue about it. I'm sorry. I don't have a problem with anyone and how they want to live their life. That's cool. Like I've stated before, I have no issue with that. I'm a live and let live type of guy. So if you want to be whatever gender you want to be today, that's fine, but don't cram it down other people's throats and don't use it as a shield to guard yourself from criticism or from legal actions. Let's be real. Like, Ezra Miller should be in jail right now. So where are we at? We're at the point where Ezra Miller opens up his jacket and threatens to shoot an old lady right there at the table while they're playing a board game. Next, according to the visiting neighbor, the mother and the child, Miller focused their attention on the then 11-year-old, saying, "I've talked extensively with your child, and they have a lot of power to them. At one point, you're going to realize that you don't have control over them anymore. They're an elevated being, and they would be lucky to have someone like me to guide them." Cult, cult, cult. This is a cult, everyone. Ring the fucking alarm. So, I laugh to stop myself from just going off on crazy rants here because, I feel like we're at this point in society where you can't do anything but laugh at a certain portion of people out there. Like, you just have to laugh because people have completely lost their minds. The sad situation is, while I report this to you all, and a lot of you all are probably just as freaked out by this as I am, there's a large number of our society that they're okay with this. In fact, they think this is a good thing. In fact, they think that these 12-year-old kids are in better care when they're with Ezra Miller as opposed to their own parents. You know, I can't go along with it. I can't go along with brainwashing 12-year-old kids. I can't go along with giving children medicine in order to curb their natural growth. I can't go along with a lot of this wicked stuff that's going on in today's society. And here we have Ezra. I don't know how much history Ezra has with this then 11-year-old non-binary kid, but from what Ezra says, he's talked to them a lot. And he mentioned that, they're an elevated being. Because he wants these kids to believe that because they're confused about their gender, and let's be honest here, most of these little kids these days, they're not really confused about their gender. They're just going along with whatever popular movement is happening right now. But he wants these little 11-year-old non-binary people. Can you even call kids kids these days? that may be offensive by the time I upload this video. Things are changing very rapidly. So he convinces these little non-binary kids that they aren't even human, that they're something better than human. They're elevated beings. And Ezra refers to himself as the second coming of Christ. Ezra believes that he is this being sent from the heavens above, the chosen one. And I want you all to understand, I'm not just pulling this out of my ass. Go watch my last video. It's on record. This dude believes that he's the second coming of Christ. At least that's what he tells people. That's what he tells a lot of these little kids. So he's got this, or at least he's telling this little child that they're an elevated being. And then he even had the nuts to turn towards the child's own mother and was like, you don't know anything. They'd be better if I guide them. Let me guide them. And you see, this is what is happening, folks. I keep trying to tell y'all, there's very special circumstances when it comes to this Ezra Miller situation. Some of these families, they're confused themselves. They're dealing with children that are, coming out as all of these different things, who are claiming they're this gender one day, the next day they're a different gender. One day they want, to take hormones. The next day they no longer want to do that. And these parents, they don't know how to deal with this. A lot of parents, they don't know how to deal with this. And then Ezra Miller comes into the situation. This non-binary dude who's a freaking actor. So you kind of, some impressionable minds would think, okay, Ezra's got it together. He's a freaking millionaire. He's also non-binary. Maybe he can have a better understanding about what my child is going through than I do. Maybe he could have some talks with my child, And these families, they let their guard down. They don't think that there's anything sexual or anything involved because their kid's non-binary and Ezra's non-binary. And they don't really understand everything that's going on here. So a lot of these people are kind of letting him in, thinking that, hey, maybe, just maybe, Ezra could come to an understanding with their child. Maybe their child will feel comfortable talking to Ezra. When in reality, what's happening is Ezra's getting into these little kids' ears, turning them against their parents, telling them that they're elevated beings, telling them that they're no longer whatever they identify as, that they're whatever Ezra chooses for them to identify as, and it's just going balls to the wall crazy. This is scarier than any horror movie I've ever seen, and in fact, I think it's worse than a lot of the situations that we've seen like it. Like the R. Kelly story, all that, I think this is almost worse. We just don't know the full details about what's going on, but what we do know, I assure you, it's bad. It's really bad. At the very least, what R. Kelly was doing was horrible, but it seemed mostly sexual. When it comes to Ezra, there is some sexual stuff going on here. Spoiler alert from my last video. However, there's also like this whole nother layer to it. Like, I don't ever believe that R. Kelly would have made all of those little girls like take themselves out in their own lives or anything like that. Whereas with Ezra, I could see it happening 100%. Charles Manson 2.0, the non-binary version. It's bad. It's real bad. So, they say, after Ezra goes on this rant about how this woman's child is an elevated being and that they should guide the child instead of the mother, Ezra Miller proceeds to turn to the mother, who dresses kind of gothy, and accused her of being a witch and a vampire, repeatedly yelling at her, "Do you want to drink my blood? Do you? Do you want to drink my blood?" Miller then came back to the child and allegedly began pestering them with compliments, at one point moving their chair closer to them, requesting that they add the actor on Instagram and telling the child to pursue fashion. They automatically were just weirdly drawn to me and kept talking about how they love my outfit and love my style and kept going on and on about how great it was, the child says. It was really uncomfortable. I was really nervous. I was scared to be around him after he'd yelled at my mother and she was crying. So this isn't just the mother and the neighbor and the grandma coming out with their allegations. The child in this occasion, in this situation, is speaking for themselves. And they're saying that, yeah, Ezra Miller really weirded me out and started really throwing all these weird offhanded compliments at me. And he was weirdly interested in me. And he yelled at my mom and made her cry, and I didn't want nothing to do with him. So you know what? You know what I gotta say? Kudos to this child. Regardless of what gender you are or what gender you're gonna be 2 days from now. Kudos to you. You sound like you got a little more sense in your head than a lot of the little kids that Ezra has taken advantage of. Okay? This sounds like someone with some sense. So, to the mother, if you're watching this, please keep people like Ezra away from your kid. And I think you've done a pretty good job at raising your child. Up until this point. Some people would question some things, but they seem to have a pretty good head on their shoulders. So kudos to you. The mother and the visiting neighbor both believe that Miller was under the influence due to their dilated pupils and erratic behavior. Miller apologized for the outburst, only to return to pester the family on a number of other occasions, including in late April, in May, and on June 4th, dressed as a cowboy. In April, both the mother and child maintained that Miller made the child uncomfortable by hugging them and pressing their body really closely against them. During the June visit, the child expressed their interest in horses, and the Miller said that they would acquire several horses so that the child could keep care of the herd on their farm, which also struck the child and the mother as inappropriate. And that's all that we know about the situation so far. Pause one moment. Close your eyes. Imagine a knock on your door. You and your 11-year-old child run to the door to see who can answer it first. It's a bright June afternoon. It's sunny outside. You're thinking about going to the pool, maybe having a picnic. You open the door, and to your surprise, the guy who played the Flash is standing outside of your door in a cowboy outfit, telling your 11-year-old kid that he will buy her horses, or him, or whatever they are, horses, so they could come to their ranch and look after the herd. Man, all I can say is that these families who have encountered Ezra Miller so far, they're better than me. Ezra Miller, you have gotten really lucky. Because if you came around someone like me or if you came around my family or someone like me's family, I don't think you would be here anymore. The amount of crazy things this guy has done, absolutely unbelievable. The fact that you showed this woman a gun, like you were going to murder her right in her own home over a board game. It's insane. But as crazy as all of this was, it's nothing compared to some of the things that has already happened with Ezra. This is only the tip of the iceberg. I'm afraid that we haven't heard the worst yet. And I know for a fact that the mainstream media, they're trying to cover this up. And when I say they're trying to cover this up, I don't mean they're very super actively trying to make sure no details get out. Like, the mainstream media is reporting that Ezra's on the run and there's these allegations against Ezra. but they aren't reporting what the real allegations are. They aren't reporting the real details. It gets dark, it gets creepy, it gets weird, and everyone's tiptoeing around the situation. And what's going to happen here is everyone's going to continue to play Ezra's little game. They're going to tiptoe around, and Ezra's going to be allowed to continue to wreak havoc on people's lives, instead of someone having the courage to say something. I have the courage to say something. I hope more people start finding their voices, because we can't allow things like this to happen just because we're scared of having conversations. Okay? People are scared to have conversations about the whole pronoun thing, about the whole trans community, about all of the sexual identity stuff that's going on. People are scared to have conversations surrounding those issues. And this isn't even a conversation surrounding that. This is just a conversation about a guy who happens to identify that way. And Ezra does not speak for everyone in this community. I don't want anyone to think that I think that. I don't think that because Ezra is doing some horrible things, that it means everyone who is like Ezra also does these horrible things. So he doesn't speak for the trans community. But what I will say, folks, I'm not sure how active you all are on social media, but this community on social media, a lot of them are standing behind Ezra. A lot of them are attacking the parents of people who come out with allegations. So Ezra doesn't speak for this community. But when this community, or a large portion of this community, speaks up to defend Ezra, then, what can we really say in this situation? So I think more people from this community need to start speaking out really strongly against things like this, so people don't, associate the things that Ezra does with this community overall. You understand what I'm saying? Now, it's not necessarily their place. It's not their obligation to do so. But I would like to see more people in this community speaking out against Ezra, as opposed to trying to silence other people who are trying to speak out. Because a lot of the interaction I'm getting from people who identify this way is them trying to silence me for not using the right pronouns, or talking about it in this way, or talking about it in that way, instead of them acknowledging the real issue here, which is Ezra. But I'm open to have whatever conversations we need to have on this channel. I'm an open-minded person, and I want to hear what you all think. If you all disagree with anything I said, let me know down in the comments below. We can talk about it. Never feel scared to express yourself here. I come on my channel to express my opinions. The comment section is for you all to express your opinions. That's what the comment section is for. The video is for me to tell you all how I feel. The comments are for you all to tell me how you all feel. So let me know how you all feel down below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all on the next video. Hopefully, Ezra doesn't do anything else crazy between now and then.